Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Rockland Board of Sewer Commissioners meeting on Tuesday, November 12th, 2024. Please be advised that this open meeting is being recorded and will be uploaded to the WRPS for playback on demand within 48 hours of this event at WRPSRockland.com. The first item on the agenda, we have a call to order of the new Board of Sewer Commissioners. I'm Mike Mullen. I'm here,
Matthew Ryan.
and and we do have new member Walter. We do have new member Walter Simmons, who may be here. He may not be here, but he has been appointed as well. So just moving on to the second item on the agenda, we have the organization or the reorganization of the board. With the election of chair and vice chair. Do we have any of the sentiment, Matt?
I make a motion that you be chair.
Hearing that motion, I will step down. I will step down and second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's a vote. And now for the position of vice chair. I will actually step down and make a motion that Matthew Ryan be named or elected as the vice chair.
Second motion.
And all those in favor?
Aye.
And that's a vote as well. Now, just moving quickly through the agenda, we have confirmation of David Taylor as the interim sewer superintendent. Just as a quick aside, the continuity that Dave brings here to the department, to the town. He's actually, in the last 4 years, he's been the department's longest serving superintendent, which is extremely impressive, and I think the town has very much benefited from that. With that, because Mr. Taylor, I was originally appointed a few weeks ago as the interim sewer superintendent by the selectmen. We just have to ratify and confirm that at this point. So is there a motion on the floor?
I make a motion to have David Taylor as the interim sewer superintendent.
I will step down and second that. All those in favor?
Aye.
And so moving even more through the agenda, we have the proposed compensation for interim superintendent David Taylor. Superintendent Taylor, is there anything you just wanted to provide as an overview in terms of the request and kind of how we got here and what the request is informed by in terms of comparable and consultant rates and so forth?
So I sent that letter out to the board and also the select board before the last meeting. So just to touch base on that amount, it's based off of a 20-hour work week, which in all likelihood will flex out more hours than leased hours. We've been averaging probably 20 to 25 hours a week right now, just to get a handle on it. Saturdays, we've been doing a lot of night work as well. So obviously, this amount is a fair and standard practice when compared to consultant and project manager salaries. To put this in perspective, the last time I left the role of interim sewer, I was replaced by multiple contracted through a wastewater treatment plant and various engineering companies. So they did hire a outside project manager from Veolia, and then they did hire another outside project manager for collections. The amount I was requesting was $1,500 a week, as I put in the letter. I believe that averages out to about $75 an hour, which in my private sector life, when I was doing consulting and project managing, I was ranging between $125 and $200 an hour, depending on what it is. The alternative to look at this would be to consider compensation as overtime, which would be time and a half, and based on my present salary, that would still be considerably higher at that point. So I feel it's reasonable, and where it's more than likely going to be a temporary basis. Like I said, I've committed to March 1st, and then that will get us through the end of the year closeout, fiscal year closeout. Also will help us with the future budgetary issues, you know, whether it be capital improvement, town articles, just general budgetary issues moving forward. That'll get us through to probably the end of February into March, and then hopefully the board, the town can make a decision on how they'd like to go with that, and then obviously it makes it easier segue for a new superintendent to come in at that point. You know, the budgetary items are done, the fiscal year is over, and you know, you go from there. And then hopefully, you know, I know I haven't touched base on this, but hopefully, you know, we're not jumping at the first or second. You know, we want to make sure whoever that person is a candidate that's going to be here for the future, hopefully, you know. So we don't, you know, as much as I've been here, you know, it's not a permanent thing, so. And that's how I look at it, and that's also based on that. But there's a ton of work. So there is a ton of work involved, just getting the day-to-day operations reeled in. And I mean, I'll touch base in on that on the plant update as well, on the sewer update, the general update as it would.
A great thing. Yeah, do you have any questions, Mr. Ryan?
I do not. I just want, David, thank you again for stepping up, helping the town out as usual. So I have nothing to add to that. I think that's fair and reasonable.
Hey, Dave, I just have one. One question and then a comment. The $1,500 per week, like, is that like a flat fee, or is that ebb and flow on hours?
No.
That's
so
flat.
it's so we've been, like, when I say flex, the hours have been flexing out.
Yep.
And
Okay. That makes
and they
sense.
have been, because we've been doing vacuuming, jetting on all the main lines where we've had issues with in the
Okay.
past. So those hours are going over. You know,
Okay.
like tonight, we're going out tonight at 9 o'clock, you know, to do an
Yeah.
overnight. I'm not saying I'm doing the whole overnight. I'll probably be out there till 12 o'clock. I have my limitations. And then I have a couple people from Veolia will be out there to help assist. And we'll get that, when I have a company jetting and I have a company vacuuming out, so we're not bringing anything back to the plant. So there won't be anything dumped here in the future. So we have a lot of that where we're getting caught up on.
Oh, that makes
So,
sense. And this is really like an exempt employee type of a situation. Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and obviously I don't have to go out, but I'm more comfortable going out and just getting it started up and see where we are. We do have some 7-Eleven shifts, and that's where I've been getting a few more hours doing like the 7 to 11. So, like I said, what I've been doing is I do about 2.5 hours during the day. You know, I come in around 9 and I'll do like a 12. My normal hours at highway are from, you know, I get there around 6 to 6:30. My hours are to 2:30. So during busy season, I'm usually there at 5:30. Now, you know, at least this kind of accommodates that, where we're going to start slowing up a little bit on like the major projects, and then I can be here, and then I make it up on the highway end at the end of the day, and then I have Saturdays. I've been coming in on Saturdays, and actually yesterday too. So I was able to get caught up a lot yesterday because there just wasn't anybody around, so I can concentrate on the paperwork. So.
You know, like, I mean, I think, yeah, I mean, like, I have been, as I mentioned the other night, like, I've been through transitions, like, in municipal realms, you know, like, as part of my role. Oh, yeah, like, I mean, like, and I know it's not uncommon for, you know, consultants to come in, like, in the interim and charge $200, $225, and, like, a lot of times you don't, like, the town doesn't get that, you know, the local, like, context, the local, everything on projects, and the fact that you know, not only bring that, but you bring the expertise. I think it's a no-brainer for us, it's a no-brainer for the town, frankly. So,
Well, keep in mind too, we don't have anybody here doing collections. So
Okay.
there's no Veolia does the plant.
Yep.
So if we have to call, somebody's going out to do a manhole or an inspection, there's nobody here. And maybe that's something you look for in the future. Maybe you reach out to Veolia in the future and you say, so right now I'm doing the collections as well. So if a call comes in on a manhole or something, I'm going out to look at that. it's been the superintendent's role in that.
Mhm.
But maybe that's something in the future, maybe you add that to amend the contract with Veolia, maybe they eventually add a, you know, on the collection side. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I mean, there's 2 town employees, right now it's myself and it's also, and it's Robin Day. You know, she has one other person to start, you know, do the receipts and the data national, but again, neither one of them are gonna go out into the field, so it is something you'll probably, you know, you'll amend in the future.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. With that, like, is there a motion on the floor for
Mr.
the?
Chairman, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, like, I'm sorry, like, we're having, like, meeting, like, we don't have any public input at this part of the agenda, so. Thank you.
I have a valid question.
I make a motion to accept the salary as projected at $1,500 per week basis.
With that, I would step down in second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's unanimous. I'm moving on. We have the sewer superintendent update.
So this is a summary with just a couple updates that I gave at the select board meeting. And I'll just kind of paraphrase it, unless you want me to go through the whole thing again, or?
Any highlights I think would be helpful. Like,
Yeah.
like I know Matt and I and the
Yeah.
public heard it, but like I think any really salient points you want to reinforce in
Yeah.
terms of the department.
I'll go through the whole thing. So this is the MOR that's submitted by Veolia in regards to the plant update. Again, I'm just a summary of it. The facility will be reporting 0 exceedance for the month of September 2024. There was 0 lost time. There was 0 injuries throughout the month. The facility treated a total of 40.5 million gallons with an average daily flow of 1.352 MGD. The reported rainfall for the reporting period was 3.01 inches. So not a lot precip, hence the 1.3 on the MGD. Ongoing projects on the plant, we have the digester boiler. So when I gave the select board meeting, at that point, the gas piping was being replaced. They have finished the gas piping since then. We upgraded a couple of the gas meters that weren't in the original contract. So the flow meters at the beginning of the gas line, we update. And then there's a couple little issues with the igniter they're tweaking. And then we have the candle, the igniter being repaired and looked at tomorrow. So that project and the scope of that project as it was per contract should be completed within a week or so. They're presently right now doing all the inspections with it, and between this week and next week, that should fall off the project list. The only addition to that is we're actually looking at the roof now, because I know the roof is a little bit falling off, and obviously where we did that much of mechanical work inside, we do not want that capital project, anything to happen to it. We put obviously a great amount into that.
Okay.
So we're getting prices right now for the roofs of the digester boiler.
Yeah, would that be like an FY25 capital request?
Could be.
potentially?
We figured we'd get prices now,
Okay.
and then maybe
Yeah.
we might have a little flexibility in where we are. Obviously, we're not even halfway through the fiscal year either.
Yeah.
So budgetary wise, but that, they're in a good spot with the digester boiler right now. And as far as, and then we have the generator upgrade. So the last I reported, we just did the asbestos remediation. That's done. We've got the sign off from FLI. That was on the remediation. So they did the air test, the monitoring, for us, the quality testing. And like I said, they did it before, during, and after, which should be done. It wasn't in the original scope. It was a small percentage to get that done at the time. It was, like I said, it was a little bit of the old mufflers were wrapped in that, the casing, so it wasn't anything to do with the building that we had to worry about. So I did make mention of this at the select board meeting, so we're very fortunate to have Veolia staff. We had the plant manager and the assistant plant manager kind of micromanage both of those projects. So one was on the digester boiler, one was on the generator. So that helped. Ongoing engineering projects. So obviously one of the main players is Wright Pierce.
Mhm.
So they've been doing doing the generator project, so they've been essentially the OPM on the generator project. They've also, one of their other projects is funding assistance project, so Robert and I are still looking into what that actually incorporates into funding assistance. I know they did a federal earmark, so maybe they, did that. I know there's not a lot of Robin Walters coming in. There's not a lot of funding for sewer, whether it be, unless it, FEMA-related grants like, towards water or whatnot. They're also doing the secondary and the electrical system upgrades. That's one of their engineering projects as well. That's all the electrical mechanicals. And they're doing the outreach assistance. We're also looking into that contract right now as well, as far as that goes.
Excuse me. I have a packet for you right down there, Walter.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Walter.
Hi.
How are you, Mr. Simmons?
Feeling all right? Feeling good?
Yes.
Yeah.
Speak a little slower.
I will, sorry.
That's me.
I just had my chai latte.
Like we're just for Walter's edification, we're just the sewer superintendent's giving his report, and we're right there.
I'm down on the second one, Walter, Weston and Sampson. So then we had one of the other main players as far as engineering is the I&I control plan. They've been working on the I&I control plan 2 years. This was started 2 years ago, actually, when I was here. We hired Weston and Sampson. They're actually into year 3, so they've been very progressive with that. So just because they're into year 3 doesn't mean they're, fiscally into year 3. They're just ahead of schedule, which is good, very progressive. That includes the smoke testing, which they've actually just finished up on. That's the inflow of sump pumps, roof drains, direct inflow into the system. What they're going to do, what the next stage of that would be like the rehab, the construction on how we can get some of these heavy numbers back in regards to that. I did make mention it's very tough when in regards to sump pumps. It's very hard to get residents on board with sump pumps retrieval, like to, disconnect and then reconnect, because you're sending it to another place in their yard if you're not sending it to in the sewer. Right or wrong, but that's being realistic. And I know I made mention of it. I know John Laughlin did that years ago, whether it's 6 or 7 years ago. He did it before we did Crescent and Vernon in that area over there. And there was a small percentage of crossovers that they could get residents to do that. Very little. So, not to get hopes up on that. So, they're working on the annual I&I and the O&M, and they did the flow metering in like the 15 quadrants. So they're looking at all those heavy hitters and then where they can come back to where we have those flow. Which again, like in all honesty, if you look at where the drainage is and where our town drainage is and it's bad, that's typically where the bad sewer is. That's running parallel with it 6 to 8 feet away. So we have to look at that. So they're also doing the NIPD's O&M plans, and they're doing details of the collection system and the equipment. That coincides with our asset management program, which I'll touch base on. So all that is they're updating like the pipe sizes, going to, looking at manholes, where the heavy construction needs to be done. So they're looking at all that, and eventually you'll have a list of, the manholes, maybe like, you get into a street like we're doing Hingham Street, maybe Hingham Street flattens out and there's an area there that's heavy with infiltration that could eventually be pipelined, and you could make a developer or somebody pay for that immediately where you can get that back. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we already have it quantified, so the engineering on the pre is already there, and then you would just have to do the post engineering on that. One of the other ongoing engineering projects is the asset management grant. This was actually, I started this 2 years ago, so I had to take 2 infrastructure components in the town. So at the time, actually, I was at sewer, and we did it with stormwater as well. So all that is we originally, I think it was 4 years ago, we started scanning all the sewer documents, all the mapping, and we got it into a good place where we can add it onto our GIS system. So what this was an update to that, because some of it is so archaic, haven't been updated, so it hit some of those areas where they're not fully connected. Maybe projects weren't actually scanned right, like when you're looking at Weymouth Street, VFW, Reservoir, Hingham Street, like that area wasn't corrected when they added like the development, like when Union Point got added, or when they rerouted some of it from some of the other projects on Commerce. So there's a lot of different aspects that are getting added and getting corrected, which is what we want. So that was a huge grant to get. We're just actually finishing it up. All the field work is done with that. So then again, they'll add that into our GIS layers, which honestly, it's one of my favorite tools, because if you ever have to go out and you look and there's a problem, you literally can look at the diameter of the pipe size, you can look at the manhole, what's tied into it. Now you have the inverts of the pipe, you have the top, so there's a lot to the dynamics, so it's very easy to work with. Collection projects, we have the MassDOT sewer manhole that's over by 813 Market Street, so this is an issue, it's been going on for a little while. So we have to go through the state on this project. If anybody's passed it, it's a large indentation before you get to the highway facility. It's on the same side. So we just had it cambered since the select board meeting, and the mark is very close to the force main, the 6-inch force main that comes out behind our facility and pushes up the street to Wyman's Fields. So we pulled the permit for it, so it takes a little time with the MassDOT permit, so we'd like to get this done before the winter. So it's either there's an issue with the force main, which we don't think there is, or it's there, what they did is whenever they did the sewer project, and I think this dates back, this is probably the 80s, maybe 70s. I remember when they dug the road up as a kid, because I lived on Market Street. But I believe what we found further down the street, it might have been, they left the upright shoring in, which used to be like the old railroad ties used to leave in the ground with the plates, and they would pull the plates, but they'd leave the shoring in and cut it down below.
Okay.
So we ran into the same issue, I think 5 or 6 years ago. It's up by Realty Choice, you know where Howard Street was? And that's what we ran into, it was rotted wood. So we're kind of hoping on the whole simplicity of it, that's what it is, and not the force main, obviously.
Yes, there is. Yep.
If it was a force main, it would be a pressure loss, and we're not getting any of that.
Okay.
The other collection project we have is the Center Ave project. It's like I said, that was started 10 years ago. We originally had a permit for that. It just wasn't followed up on. There was 10 manholes at the time, now there's 12 manholes, and that's in the state format. So that's actually a fairly big project, because it's probably a week's worth of work, and it has to be all done at night, because it's center line, and it's on 139, 123. So a lot of those, and then those are center line, the road flattens out, so there's a lot of infiltration there right now. So if you drive by it, you'll see most of them are dilapidated. Most likely that project will have to wait till spring, because the state falls under the winter moratorium, and between the two projects, we'll do that indentation first, so we don't have issues with that. The other collection projects we have going is, like I referred to, is we have the vac and jetting on the sewer lines where the road projects were done over the summer. So this is something that John did, that I kind of kept going. Like anytime there was a road project and we had the rebuilds on the sewer, there's also DEP credits towards that, whether it be between $750 and $1,200 for I&I infiltration. And then that goes over to the water department too, because they can use those DEP credits for water conservation as well. That is on the DEP website on what the credits are for that. But that is, so we jet that, so when they're rebuilding it, you might get fragments of mortar or something could fall in there, and honestly, if it's something, it drops in there and we can't see. If it's a brick, the contractor goes in, pulls the brick out, but if it's something else and it shoots down, it's a safer guide to go in, vac, jet these lines, so we don't have an issue and everything's new. We do the same thing on stormwater too.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so it's something we did, and then it also has to do with the maintenance, if that segues over to the maintenance of the sewer lines. So you have a few lines in towns where it gets, issues, maybe some of the lines flatten out a little bit, they're a little bit older, a little bit beaten up, maybe they're undersized for what they originally were scoped for, and, like you get into like Hingham Street, you have all those hotels up there, and, ever since 2020, you have the wipes that supposedly are disposable, that gets caught on like a flattened out invert, you can get issues there. So a lot of those lines, again, John used to do certain streets, so I brought it back. We've been doing all this at night. Obviously, we can't do Weymouth Street, Hingham Street, Reservoir during the day, so we're hoping we can get a bunch of it done tonight, because they've had issues with Hingham Street recently and in the past, so if we figure we could get Hingham Street done over the next few weeks, so we don't have, obviously, to call a crew in for winter work or emergency work, so we're trying to get away from that. General sewer department update, the Rockland sewer system, like I said, consists of two parts. Everything at the plant is contracted out to Veolia. They run all the plant operations. Everything outside of the plant, known as the collection system, is covered by the town in way of the sewer superintendent as of right now. I'm usually assisted if it's something fairly big where I need assistance on. Veolia's have been very happy to lend one of the employees to come out and help, you know what I mean? Manholes or, just general, to see what the issue is. The oversight of the plant falls under the superintendent. It's contracted out to outside contractors, whether it be Veolia. The policy and contract operations with Veolia is overseen by the board, with the superintendent acting as a liaison between both. If there's any questions and you need to reach out, we have a good rapport with Megan. She's fantastic, and Jesse's the assistant plant manager. I just met Jesse, he's fairly new, got a good rapport with him as well. Just a day-to-day, the oversee, the management of the budget, the procurement, the contracts, the oversight, daily calls, whether it be any issues with a line or, people have concerns. This also, I know I didn't bring it up, but it's also in regards to open drainage too, because the open drainage falls on the sewer department. So it's an odd dynamic, so they've always done the open drainage, the closed drainage falls over to us with the MS4. So we're trying to get caught up with some of the stuff on the open drainage as well. So we get a lot of calls, so 50%, if not more, on drainage calls usually have to do with open drainage. And that usually consistent with this time of year, you got the leaves falling down, people are blowing the leaves in the backyards going into an open drainage area where, people refer to them as streams or creeks, but it's open drainage.
Yep.
So that, that's what we've been dealing with, those calls as well. We are also with the day-to-day is the IPP program. So currently it's not that it's not up to date, but it's just, we have to get up to date with the inspections of it. So this has to do with us going out with, looking at grease trap inspections, also commercial discharges. I brought up the reference of like the dental offices.
Mercury.
With the mercury, they have to have retainment areas for those, so then, you're not flushing contaminants down. So we do those inspections, car washes, which fortunately we only have one car wash in town. But you have to go out and do these inspections annually anyways, and just in case, you have some of these older buildings, and it's maybe just as simple as maybe they have a dumpster over a drain, and maybe that drain's tied into a sewer, and then at some point we need to get caught up and make sure there's nothing getting discharged into a sewer. It just keeps everybody honest. So we're gonna get up to date on that. That's actually, we have that, Robin and I have that scheduled for next week, where we've been doing an outline of what we need to do, but Then we're gonna focus on the IPP program and bring it back in. Megan has agreed to go out and do inspections at the commercial properties, which we'll do. The dental offices are done, and the car wash is done, so those are all done.
Thank you.
Blockages in the field, like I said, I made reference to that. That's just, non-functioning lateral stubs, manholes. Again, we'll just get called out. Usually we'll go out. Veolia will assist. And then we have just general rehab work, which we've been looking at some of the manholes, and those, that could be somebody like that maybe has a sewer easement in their backyard, that runs through, these areas. We'll go out and look at the, what the rehab, if it's like in a high water table, maybe that covers come skewed, you know what I mean, and needs to be remortared and reset, maybe even raised, to get it out of the water table. So we get a lot of those calls just from residents, and we'll go out and look at that. And then we're also, like I said, even a manhole, like we got a couple calls on Hingham Street this week already on a couple dilapidated manholes. So we'll go out and look at that, and then if it's something obviously we'll sub it out to a small contractor. If it's something major, then we'll send one of our drain layers on our list. Day-to-day developers, so obviously there's, you have a few developments going on right now. This could just be as easy as like Form Ks, when the developers come in, reviewing their fees, the fee schedules, development fees, I&I fees, maybe moving forward.
Yeah, not to digress, but do we have like a fairly updated list of fees, or has it been a while, or?
Well, I think we do. I mean,
Okay.
when I was here last time, we came up with a fee matrix.
Okay. So it's,
Robin and I, and we'd like to start maybe instilling more of an I&I fee in regards to the developers. So we're going after the developers to help us get that remediation, which is I'd like to see. Not that there's a ton of development, but there are people on the waiting list, which they had. And not to skirt the moratorium, but to just, like, it could even be as small as, they're having hookups. So, not to get away from it, but they're having people hooking up, and those typically are 440, so they've had a couple hookups for 660. So
Those are gallons.
right. So based on bedrooms, 110 gallons, so that's 6 bedrooms on some of these. So we'll need to just make sure we're getting covered on that.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Because like I said, we have the pre-engineering on this where it's been quantified. And then if you can, you instill that I&I fee to cover you to get that remediation, and also to pay for the engineering for that post-engineering, so it's not on us.
Yep.
So it's not on the ratepayers, the residents, and I think that, that will help, obviously.
and at the same time, just like looking at this 1.5 million gallons a day baseline with no rain.
Right.
Basically, generally, like it tells us that we're, the rest, they get up to 2.5 and even more. It's really probably predominantly I&I at this point when it happens. So.
Yeah, you got a lot. And they've taken a lot out. So like I said, there've been, if you go look at the numbers, like I said, that SSES study was originally done under John Laughlin, and then I think it was my first time here, Robin, right, with AECom?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we had AECom, and then they got that original that was introduced to the EPA. So then the last, the sewer board, they did follow up, and then that all got done. So that was, that's a lot of gallons to get, to get back, take off the board. So, we're in a really good spot as far as the I&I, showing the EPA and everything, we're in a really good spot. So I'm not gonna take that away. It's just, now we gotta get into the rehab and see how, who's gonna pay for that?
Yep.
Do you know what I mean? You gotta come up with a plan with that. And my personal would be developers as much as you could. Do you know what I mean? But you can't be it has to be like what they've been doing. They've been letting the little guys come in, and then you take some of that off the board, which makes sense. So one of the other aspects is permits, whether it be new drain layers or, just general permits, like somebody maybe even converting over to, from septic to town, and they've already they've already paid for the stub, you know, to better, you know, so, through the betterments and everything.
Yes.
So, you know, we do deal with that a lot, and we'll go out, you know, look, I mean, you know, there's certain criteria that we brought over years ago that we essentially copied the town of Situate's ordinance, you know, at that point, on what they did, because my old company from the private sector used to do, you know, sewer work down that way, and, you know, they're very stringent on, you know, the amount of cleanouts, you know, make sure, you know, what type of pipe you're using, and getting rid of the old pipe, which is what you want, and it might be a little bit more, even if it's a cellar, it might be a little bit more for the cellar up front, but it's also a selling feature to the future buyer too. Do you know what I mean? Like, all that's been updated.
Right.
Right. And it's, you know, it's compliant and it's easier to deal with, where, you know, some of the old, like, I come from an older house and I didn't have multiple cleanouts. I had an old cast pipe, they, you know, left it, and then you're gonna do your clean out, it's always in the basement, so it's always a little easy to do that, so. I went over the experience, I don't know if you want me to go over my experience, we're good with that one?
Agree with that?
Okay. Miscellaneous resident concerns, I know I brought up a couple of documents that were floating around. Do you need me to go through that, would you like me to, or not?
It's up to you, Dave.
Okay, I mean, I did say, like, I mean, some of the miscellaneous resident concerns was, one was related to sewer, and the other one were like shared sewer, open drainage aspects, and, one of them was an internal document, and that was a few years ago. This was when the plant was under Suez. So it was I made reference to a Suez employee was doing work on his personal vehicle during work hours. I approached the plant manager and asked if this is typically allowed. He said there wasn't much that he could do, as this employee was friends with the current superintendent. He wasn't comfortable reaching
No,
out
not
to.
the superintendent.
Oh, the chairman of the
Thank you.
board. Thank you, Robin. I went over the plant manager's head at that point and reached out to the regional manager and explained that, you know, I wasn't comfortable having a contractor working on his vehicle in the town-owned building during working hours. You know, that regional manager came up with that document that was posted on the Suez bulletin board at that point, and that's where that document came from. The other was a wetland violation that a few people have brought up, and I've talked to a few residents about it as well. This was Spruce Street head wall collapse. This was east, so we submitted a grant back in 2023 for both of these head walls after we did a original assessment 2 years before that of all the culverts that we deemed on our priority list. Those culverts were Spruce Street East, Spruce Street West, which is over by the Abington end, and also there's a culvert that runs through right down by where the Jehovah Witness Hall is on Summer Street, and also the bigger one that is over on East Water Street, but that takes half the town that comes through there. And I misquoted, I said that was Cushing Brook, which was Old Swamp something. I think there's a little pond there or something. So I might have misquoted, I still might, so. But they, on the back side of that is an area there where there's, where it was blown out, and that's still an issue. But in regards, so obviously, I certainly wouldn't jeopardize that grant, because obviously those grants are hard to come by. We were resubmitting it this year. You know, our department, we're not driving around looking for additional work. Somebody actually came in and pointed out that there was an issue with the head wall and the fence and the road, and that's where we came up and, you know, and went and looked at it. We repaired it, and we ran into some issues where we started trying to stack the granite pieces on that. If anybody's ever seen it, it was all hollowed out underneath in between there, so it wasn't done correctly whenever they did it. And then there was a 3-foot section that was like detached from the rest of the pipe, which actually didn't look like it was ever mortared. But we did a temporary fix. I did a summary, which is available. I did a written summary of that in February, right after that was done, that scope. I submitted it to Concom. Concom asked us to submit an after-the-fact NOI, which we did. The meeting is actually after this at 7 o'clock, which I'll be going to, with the company that's doing the engineering on it. And then the other aspect of the other thing was, I know we have a lot of residents call about open drainage projects, and these are listed in priorities. I touched base on a few of them, just so if any of those residents lift, and I'm looking at them in a different way, obviously, because I'm over at sewer, and now I've inherited open drainage again, so. So East Water Street had, well, we're obviously looking at that. The backside of that is blowing out. So we're gonna look at that on how we can reattach that. But obviously that's gonna be a decent side project that's gonna involve also another NOI for that project. French Road, we did an NOI for that 3 years ago, but that's gonna have to be a resubmittal for that open space, because that
Is
actually.
that all the way in the back?
It's in the back, on the
Okay.
back side of Townsend. That actually
Okay,
needs
yeah.
a cleanup. It's just tons of residents, and you got brush, there's leaves, and, there's a lot back there. And obviously we want to get that cleaned up, because that's on the back side of our reservoir as well. You've had some issues over at Rice Ave as well, and there's been a ton of resident concerns from 95 to 105. There's an old couple pipes that run through there, so we're looking at it on our end, because we do have Rice Ave on our road list.
Yeah.
So we want to try to get some of those issues done. We have to go to conservation on that as well. Hingham Street, a lot of blockages over there, and that ranges from the Glen, and there's another condominium complex over there as well, and that goes from them all the way up to like the water treatment plant. That's kind of branched out, and honestly, a lot of that has to do with fallen trees, and maybe people just even dragging brush out, and we try to get it out on social media, not to dump grass, not to dump leaves, but you can only do so much. The sandpaper factory behind that, and the rail trail, there's also a culvert there that gets a lot from East Water, Howard Street, and that all comes through there and charges out behind the sandpaper factory. That crosses over onto George Street, which eventually makes its way down to the old Tedeschi building and crosses Market Street. And then just miscellaneous, like head wall areas. It even included, like, if you go back to when John Laughlin was here, he used to do like updated like guardrails and fencing, obviously in those open areas, because a lot of them are getting dilapidated, and maybe they're not compliant with heights, for safety reasons, so a lot of that's getting done. So we have contacted a couple fence companies to get back that in the queue as well.
Sure.
So, that's essentially it on that. The only other thing I kind of wanted to touch base on, and the plant manager just got back from vacation, so she couldn't really be here tonight. So maybe the next meeting we could have her come in. She usually does a monthly update to get on any Veolia aspects or plant aspects. I touched base on the night work that we have going on, so we foresee that being probably this week, next week, and the week after. Hopefully we'll be caught up on that. And then the only other thing I know is the signatory page, with the board. At some point, maybe you could bring that up at the next meeting on how that's done. And then I know, looking at it, it's a form that you use to authorize, the individual commissioners. Do you want to touch base on it? Because you
I
probably...
do, because I don't think it can wait until next month.
Yeah.
So originally I sent this packet out to you gentlemen. Originally it required 3 signatures for the warrants and monthly reports. It was difficult sometimes to get 3 commissioners down here to sign everything. So we changed it so that they only require the signature of 1 commissioner. But if anybody would feel left out in that scenario, I obviously could save packets for you on anything that's signed by any individual one of you. But I need to have that signed just so we can move forward with the signatures during the month.
Yeah, I guess the only question, it's like an agenda open meeting law related question. Question. In the meantime, Dave, as the department head, do you have the ability to sign or no?
He does until this is updated.
He does until this is updated, so if we, yeah, like, I mean, I don't have any problem, you know, choosing one of us at all, I mean, yeah, like, I mean, like, it took me an hour to get back just tonight alone, so I'm probably not the best one, you know, to be that dedicated person, but like, but do we have the ability to wait, to do this to the next meeting, and just have, I can just recognize that Dave as the superintendent, yeah, like, I mean, like, is gonna be that designee in the meantime, just like he has been doing, would that work?
I did, I checked with accounting and that
Okay.
would work.
Okay.
And I did have some thoughts on the signature because I know that both Mike and Matt
Yep.
work during the day when I would need the
Yep.
signatures required, so I wouldn't mind if Walter wouldn't mind being the person to come down and sign. It's a few minutes, well,
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know about
that's-
your commute, but signing the actual paperwork is a few minutes.
Sure. No, I don't have a problem with it, like, just if we can like codify that at the next meeting, if that's okay.
Okay.
Like, in the meantime, we'll recognize that Dave as the superintendent will just continue doing, what he's been doing.
I would agree.
Is that okay with everyone?
I would agree.
Very good.
Thank you, Robin.
You're welcome.
Any comments or questions? Any comments or questions from members of the board for the superintendent? Thoughts?
No.
I don't know. Thank you,
Okay.
David.
Thank you, Superintendent Taylor. We do have to now talk about the like scheduling of like future and upcoming meetings. You know, like I'm thinking, like if we get like a regular date and time on the books, you know, so it's easier for us to plan. And then that will like, give us the ability to, you know, like invite different people in as well. Like I know the town administrator, he's already expressed an interest to, you know, like catch up with us as well. And like I guess, does anyone have any days of? I mean, like it's really a question. I mean, we work, but I mean, we want to make sure we're doing this. Yeah, we're a team, so we like it works like for all of our schedules and agendas. So.
Do you feel what about the time? Should we move it to 5:30? Would that help? Because you have a little bit of a commute.
5:30 would be better for me, but how does it work? I mean, is it a deal breaker for you,
5:30 is fine.
Matt?
I think.
Yeah.
Walter? Okay.
Yeah, because all it is, I mean, I'm here till 5:30, so, you know what I mean? So, and then Megan's, it's a
It's
matter of
perfect, I always have work I can get done.
yeah, it's a matter of the plant manager and because you'd want her to obviously do her monthly meetings.
Yeah.
So she'd probably like that. It's not bad.
It's a lot easier for her than joining a meeting at 7.
Yeah.
And I know she spoke about maybe starting her day a little bit later that day.
Yeah, and I like being home for bedtime too. Like not my bedtime, but like So do Tuesday evenings work?
Tuesdays are good. The only night I can't do is Thursday, so.
Okay.
I'm okay with Tuesdays as well.
Fine with me.
Exactly. The only
Tuesday?
the only Tuesdays I will have a conflict on is the third Tuesday of every month, and like as long as we, in terms of I guess the workflow, the issues on the commissioner's docket. I mean, are we thinking once a month would be sufficient? Are we thinking do we have that type of projection at this point? I mean, I don't want to overdo it, but I don't want to underdo it and have things pile up either.
Agreed.
Thoughts on that?
I mean,
We've always had the monthly meeting just once a month. We
Okay.
had it up until the most recent sewer commission, it was always once a month. They had added for themselves, in the absence of a superintendent,
Okay.
working session meetings, but those were during the
Yeah,
day.
superintendent.
The monthly meeting was always still once a month.
you obviously always have the option, if something came up, you
Yep.
could call a meeting.
Okay.
As long as we're on
Yeah,
the protocol.
Do you want to target like the second or fourth Tuesday of the month?
Second Tuesday.
Good for you?
Yeah, like the second
Second
Tuesday. Is
Tuesday.
that okay with everyone? Is that the
Works for me.
consensus?
Alright.
Okay. So, The next meeting of the board will be
Yeah.
Tuesday,
That would be
the
the
10th.
10th.
Okay.
And you should have a few projects dropping off by then too, do you know what I mean?
Yep, perfect.
So, and know where we are fiscally as well.
Perfect.
Perfect. Like board members too, like if there's any issues or priorities that like, we have as we get caught up to speed that you'd like to, that we can like work to provide information and updates on, we will, like, definitely, like it gives us an ability to plan those as well, so.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you want people to get agenda items to you?
In terms of members of the board or the public or developers or all of the above.
All of the above, like I think if we have a developer, David's probably gonna reach out to you and send you an email.
Yeah.
But what if Walter or Matt have something that they want on the agenda? Do you want them to just reach out to you directly?
If it's okay, like I would just so we prevent any open meeting law issues. That like if you like involved, like if they could work directly with you.
Okay, and then I can forward it
Like
to you.
every month when we do the agenda setting, we could we can like sort through all that at that point if that's okay with everybody.
That's fine with me.
There's a general mailbox for Rockland Sewer,
Okay.
and I think I've corresponded with all of you from that account.
Okay. Perfect.
They can obviously like updates and everything else, isn't a violation of anything either.
It's not.
So that works perfect. If
Okay,
that's okay
that
with
was
everyone.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Dave, does all that work for you? I want to make sure
Yes.
we, we sync, and nothing that, I don't want to speak for the three of us, but, we're not trying to be a burden here. We want to be strong and good partners.
Correct.
So if there's anything we're thinking, especially saying, please feel free to just, interrupt me or stop me in my tracks laughing and tell me to stop. I'm way out of pace.
Thank you.
Any other business by members of the board? Are we good? With that, I would
Mr.
entertain.
Chairman, question?
Yeah, I'm sorry, we don't have open forum
I'm not asking for
at
it.
this point on the agenda. Like, I can follow up with you after, Mr. Wood.
Okay?
We don't have any time for public input on this agenda. So, thank you. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Great.